It started on a night when every siren in the city went silent. The storm had knocked out power, chaos was spreading fast, and somewhere out there, a young woman was trapped, her screams lost in the rain. The police couldn't come, the ambulance couldn't reach her. But a sound rose from the distance, not sirens, but the thunder of motorcycle engines, and when the sirens failed, the bikers stepped in. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear will make you believe in humanity again. The rain fell like shattered glass that night, slicing through the silence of a small American town named Clearwater Ridge. It was one of those storms that seemed alive. Lightning crawling across the sky like angry veins, thunder roaring as if the heavens were breaking apart. Power lines snapped under the weight of the wind, plunging entire neighborhoods into darkness. Inside a little diner on the edge of town, a group of bikers sat huddled around a table, their leather jackets glistening with rain. They called themselves the Iron Compass Riders, not a gang, but a brotherhood. Veterans, mechanics, ex-firefighters, and wanderers who had all found each other on the open road. Their leader, Jake Henderson, was a tall man with silver, streaked hair and a presence that demanded respect. He leaned back in his chair, sipping the last of his black coffee. When his phone buzzed on the table, the screen flickered with a message 911 Swazindadun. Imagian CY response Arnati. Jake frowned. He'd seen storms, but never one bad enough to take down the emergency network. The other bikers glanced up from their cups, uneasy. That can't be right, said Ty, a younger rider with a nervous energy. What if someone's hurt out there? Jake looked out through the rain-streaked window. The streets were empty, only the neon sign of the diner flickering weakly in the dark. Then, he said quietly, we're the only ones left to help. Before anyone could reply, the diner door burst open. A woman stumbled in, drenched from head to toe, her hair plastered to her face. She looked terrified. Please, someone help! My sister. She's trapped. A car crash on Old Pine Road. She's bleeding bad. The waitress gasped. The phones are dead, she said. Ambulance won't make it through this storm. Jake didn't hesitate. He stood pulling on his gloves. We'll go, he said simply. The woman stared at him, disbelief and hope clashing in her eyes. You're bikers. Jake gave a half smile. Tonight, ma'am, we're whoever you need us to be. Within minutes, engines thundered to life outside, their headlights cutting through the sheets of rain like twin daggers. The woman, whose name was Emily, climbed onto the back of Jake's bike, clutching his jacket as they roared into the storm. Old Pine Road was a twisting path through the forest, now half flooded and littered with fallen branches. Every turn was a gamble. The bikes slipped and skidded, but the men rode like they had a purpose carved into their bones. When they reached the crash site, the beam of Jake's headlight caught the twisted wreck of a small blue sedan crumpled against a tree. The windshield was shattered, and inside a young woman, barely in her 20s, was slumped over the steering wheel, blood streaking her forehead. Lily, Emily screamed, rushing forward. Ty and another biker named Cole grabbed crowbars from their saddlebags. Jake barked orders, his voice steady. Ty, check for a pulse. Cole, clear the road. We'll need a path out once she's free. The storm howled around them, drowning out everything but the roar of the wind and the rumble of bikes still idling nearby. The men worked fast, muscles straining as they pried open the door. It groaned, then snapped free. Ty pressed 2 fingers to Lily's neck. She's alive, but weak. We need to move her now. Jake tore off his jacket and laid it across her to keep her warm. Emily, stay close, he said. We'll take her to Dr. Parker's clinic. She's got a generator. Emily's lips trembled. But that's 10 miles away? Jake met her eyes. Then we better ride fast. They fashioned a makeshift stretcher from 2 metal rods and a tarp. Carefully, they lifted Lily onto the back of a custom trike, Ty driving slow while Jake rode ahead to clear the path. The rain didn't let up, it only got worse. Roads turned to rivers, bridges looked ready to collapse. But the bikers pressed on, their headlights cutting through the chaos. At one point, lightning struck a tree just a few feet from the road, the blast sending debris flying. One biker lost control, his Harley skidding into the mud. Jake doubled back immediately. You good? The man nodded, shaken but unhurt. Jake revved his engine. We don't leave anyone behind. It was then they heard it. A faint cry for help carried on the wind. Not from Lily, but from somewhere in the woods. Jake signaled the others to stop. "Someone else is out there," he said. Tay frowned. "We can't risk it. Lily's fading." Jake hesitated for a heartbeat, torn between two lives. Then he made his choice. "Ty, you take Lily and Emily to the clinic. I'll check it out." He turned his bike toward the trees, following the faint sound. The rain hammered against his helmet, visibility near zero. After a few minutes, he spotted a flash of color. A car overturned in the ditch. Inside, a man was trapped, his leg pinned beneath the dashboard. Jake pulled up, engine idling low. "Hang on, buddy, I got you." The man groaned. "Police? My little girl, she's in the back seat." Jake froze. "We're in the back." He looked through the shattered window and saw a small figure, maybe 6 years old, unconscious but breathing. Without thinking, he ripped open the back door, lifted the girl into his arms, and carried her to safety under a nearby tree. Then he returned for the father, prying the door open with brute force. The man coughed. Pain etched across his face. "You're not police." Jake smiled grimly. "Nah, just a biker with bad timing." By the time they made it back to the road, the others were long gone. Jake loaded the father and daughter into a pickup truck that had pulled up, driven by another local who'd seen the lights. He gave quick directions to the clinic and raced off again, determined to catch up. When he reached Dr. Parker's clinic, he found chaos, but controlled chaos. The bikers had arrived before him, clearing debris from the entrance, setting up lamps, helping the doctor stabilize Lily. Dr. Parker looked up from her work, sweat on her brow. Without those men, she wouldn't have made it. Emily clasped Jake's hand, tears streaming down her face. "You saved her, and others too." But Jake wasn't listening. He was watching the street outside, the storm still raging, thinking about how many others might be out there needing help. Then the clinic door burst open again, and in stumbled a police officer, drenched and shaking. "The station's underwater. We need volunteers to help move people from the east side. The bridge is collapsing." Jake turned to his crew. No words were needed. Every one of them stood up. The officer blinked. "You guys are bikers." Jake adjusted his gloves. "Not tonight. Tonight we're the cavalry." And just like that, they rode back into the storm. For the next several hours, Clearwater Ridge saw a sight it would never forget. Bikers forming human chains to pull stranded families from cars, ferrying the injured to safety, delivering food and blankets to those trapped by the floodwaters. When dawn finally broke, the storm had passed, leaving behind wreckage and hope. The streets were littered with branches and debris, but the people were alive. Jake parked his bike outside the diner where it had all begun. The sun was rising over the soaked town, casting golden light across the wrecked streets. Emily stood beside him, her sister Lily now resting safely at the clinic. "You could have just stayed at the diner," Emily said softly. "Nobody would have blamed you." Jake looked out at the town, his face calm. When the sirens fail, someone's got to answer the call. The other bikers joined him, tired but proud, their jackets torn, their boots caked with mud. Reporters would later call them heroes, but Jake would never use that word. Weeks later, Clearwater Ridge rebuilt. The storm became just another story, except for the memorial mural painted downtown. It showed bikers riding through rain, headlights cutting through the dark, a symbol of courage when the world went silent. And every year after that, when the storms came, the townspeople didn't panic. They listened, not for sirens but for engines, because they knew the sound meant hope. Jake's legend grew beyond Clearwater Ridge. People across the country heard about the Iron Compass Riders, the bikers who didn't wait for permission to do the right thing. Donations poured in, offers for interviews, even movie deals. Jake refused them all. Instead, he used the attention to start something real, a volunteer network of bikers, trained in basic emergency response, ready to deploy when official help couldn't reach. They called it Project Iron Compass. Within a year, it had spread across several states. There was a night in Tennessee when a tornado hit and local rescue was overwhelmed. Guess who showed up first? The bikers. In Louisiana, when flash floods trapped dozens of people in their cars, the first lights to appear through the water weren't from ambulances. They were from motorcycles. And everywhere they went, people remembered that one phrase, "When the sirens failed, the bikers stepped in." Jake eventually retired from active riding, passing leadership to Ty, the once nervous rookie who had grown into a man with fire in his heart. On Jake's last ride, he led his crew through Clearwater Ridge one final time, every bike flying the same symbol, a compass half covered in storm clouds, half in sunlight. He stopped by the mural, now weathered with age, and placed his helmet at its base. Emily and Lily were there too, waving. Lily, now a nurse, walked up and hugged him. "You didn't just save me," she said softly. "You saved this town." Jake smiled. "No, kid, we all saved each other." He started his bike, the familiar rumble filling the air. The townspeople watched as he rode into the horizon, the sound of his engine fading but never really gone. Because in Clearwater Ridge, hope didn't sound like a siren anymore. It sounded like thunder on two wheels. If this story moved you, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed for more powerful, true life stories like this one. And tell me, where are you watching from? Which part of the country are you in tonight? I'd love to know who's riding with us on this journey.